Madam President, the Council's gift was a neural siphon. Rourke didn't blink. She stared across the Grand Chamber, watching High Chancellor Velorian smile like a lizard sunning itself on a corpse. They tried to hack our minds? Her aide whispered. She stood. Calm. Controlled. Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, she said, her voice slicing through the marble silence. We are done pretending this is diplomacy. Dozens of alien delegates gasped. Outside the station, Earth's stealth fleet decloaked, silent, patient, ready. Rourke's eyes locked with Velorian's. You wanted peace on your terms. Now you'll see war on ours. The Unity spire was polished to the point of insult. Marble, crystal, and hollow declarations filled its halls, the symbols of peace gilded in metals mined from planets whose populations hadn't voted for their own annexation. President Helena Rourke stepped into the chamber as if it were a theater stage, and she knew every actor was armed beneath the robe. Alien envoys flanked the grand dome, an arc of scales, fur, and chitin. At the center, seated on an obsidian pedestal shaped like a broken ring, High Chancellor Velorian Kotaith waited with the exact smile of someone who believed himself already victorious. His neck frills twitched in amusement as Rourke approached. President Rourke, he said, spreading his six-jointed arms like a host welcoming prey to the feast. We are honored by your presence. Her boots clicked on the polished floor, unarmed, but unmistakably military. Let's not start with lies, Chancellor, she said. It wastes everyone's time. The chamber chuckled. Nervously. Mostly. Behind her, Terran aides flanked the path, silent, sharp-eyed, watching for more than protocol breaches. They didn't carry weapons. They didn't need to. Somewhere beyond the moon's shadow, the TSV Nox Invicta drifted quietly, charged and cloaked. She took her place at the stone table's edge. Not seated. Standing. The Terran Union appreciates the opportunity to once again discuss the peace you seem so eager to finalize. She continued, voice smooth. Let's hope today's version doesn't explode in our faces. Like Bastion. A few aliens twitched. Others avoided her gaze. Velorian's smile didn't waver, though it calcified. That incident was unfortunate, he said, folding his hands like a surgeon before a botched operation. We've moved beyond such primitive misunderstandings. And yet here we are, Rourke replied. In a room full of species who think trust is something you issue, not earn. Her aide's tablet vibrated once. That was the signal. She didn't look. Didn't need to. One tap on her wrist and the encoded message blinked onto her retinal display. Gift contains embedded siphon. Euro mapping confirmed. Direct trace to Kotaith. Standing by for countermeasures. Rourke exhaled once through her nose. Calm. The kind of calm that meant someone was about to bleed, perhaps not physically, but reputationally, politically, structurally. She raised her eyes toward the Chancellor, and for the first time, she smiled. Let's begin, she said. A council drone floated forward, holograms spinning from its core, displaying proposed amendments to the so-called Final Peace Accord. One clause shimmered larger than the rest. Unified Cognitive Integrity Exchange. It sounded benevolent. Everything did, when wrapped in enough technobabble and diplomacy. The clause was the leash. The siphon. The backdoor into Earth's command AI and possibly into the minds of Terran citizens. Explain this, Rourke said, tilting her head toward the clause. Use simple words. We're very slow learners, you know. Velorian blinked, caught slightly off guard. It's a mutual safeguard. A protocol to ensure collective mental stability. Shared psychological baselines reduce xenophobic aggression. Mutual? Rourke asked, turning to her aide. We received no matching node access for the Thesari or Jelen AR, correct? Correct, the aide replied, tapping their tablet. Only Earth was given the device. Murmurs rippled. A Cernari diplomat glanced nervously toward the Chancellor. One of the insected Velbari twitched his mandibles. Rourke leaned forward just slightly. Not a threat yet. You embedded a neural siphon in your diplomatic gift. It would have mapped our cognitive structures, AI routines, even civilian responses. You weren't looking for peace. You were looking for a blueprint. Velorian opened his mouth. Rourke raised her hand. Don't insult me with denials, she said. We already cracked the architecture. Your name is all over the subroutines. Gasps. Not polite ones. Not the staged theatrics of council scandal. These were real, visceral reactions. Velorian's own allies shifted in their seats. I suggest you tread carefully, President, Velorian said. You're accusing this council of a crime against one of its members. No, Rourke said. I'm stating a fact. And we're no longer members. The chamber froze. For a moment, the Unity spire felt like a tomb. My fleet is in orbit, she continued, voice even. No weapons hot. No threats issued. But this summit ends now. And Earth walks out. A Dreek envoy stood, waving his tentacles. This is madness. Earth can't operate outside the Accord. The stability of the galactic order depends. Rourke cut him off with a glance. Not aggressive. Just final. You built the galactic order on fear, she said. You thought Earth would play along if the table looked diplomatic enough. But we built our peace out of glass, transparent and fragile. And we remember every shard. Velorian stood, barely holding composure. You are destabilizing centuries of balance. No, Rourke said. You already did. We're just declining to be complicit. The lights dimmed for a fraction of a second. Not by accident. Earth's quantum AI sigil had just announced its presence in the Spire's system. A polite ghost in the network, waiting. By Terran Union directive, Rourke declared, projecting her voice across the dome. This council is no longer a neutral arbiter. We hereby terminate all diplomatic ties, nullify previous agreements, and withdraw from your jurisdiction effective immediately. Silence. Then a new message flickered to life across every screen, every tablet, every device linked to the galactic net. Terran Union status, autonomous. Diplomatic immunity revoked. Standing alert, monitored. Response level, strategic. Rourke turned without waiting for response. Her aides followed. As she crossed the threshold of the chamber doors, someone, perhaps one of the Narel, called after her. What will you do now? She paused just long enough to let the question hang. Then she answered without turning around. We'll stop pretending we're smaller than we are. And with that, Earth left the table. The door closed behind President Rourke, but the echo of her words stayed like smoke in the chamber. Inside, the council was unraveling. No, this is salvageable, barked the Gel-NAR envoy, antennae twitching wildly. We can issue a retraction. A diplomatic misinterpretation. Velorian said nothing. His eyes were locked on the suspended holoscreen where the Terran declaration still pulsed like a heartbeat. Terran Union status, autonomous. Response level, strategic. The room that once treated Earth like a curiosity now treated their exit like a countdown. A Zenther general slammed a six-fingered fist on the table. They're bluffing. Earth doesn't have the capacity to stand alone. They rely on council trade, tech sharing, defense treaties. They don't anymore, muttered Councillor Rolleth of the Ophir. They haven't in years. We just didn't want to see it. The Thesari Chancellor finally found his voice. Calm, but cracking. Activate diplomatic protocols. We'll initiate containment messaging before. Before what? Before Earth says something else? Before the galaxy notices Earth has walked away and didn't look back? A comm drone zipped into the chamber, lights red. Emergency signal from Trade Corridor Theta. It chimed. Terran shipping relays are down. Civilian logistics blackout has begun. A wave of murmurs followed. Delegates turned to one another. Blackout? That meant thousands of supply chains, ships, fuel, medicine, food, all routed through Earth's hyperlane network. How did they shut it down this fast? Someone whispered. They didn't, Rolleth answered. They planned this months ago. Velorian stood slowly. Every movement was deliberate, calculated, until now. He looked uncertain. Cornered. Not by force, but by something worse, consequences. We call an emergency vote, he stammered. To issue a formal rebuke. Re-establish their obligations under the Treaty of Systems. They just burned the treaty. The Cernari delegate snapped. With you still holding the match. The Lorian turned sharply. You think I authorized the siphon? You think we care? She replied coldly. You endangered every world under Terran tech dependence. And now they're spiraling. Screens flickered again. A new alert. Orbit feed Unity Spire perimeter. Object detected. They all looked up. The spire's transparent dome shimmered. Beyond it, a shadow took shape in low orbit, sleek, matte black, dagger-shaped. No lights. No signals. Just presence. One ship. Then 3. Then 12. Earth's fleet had decloaked. Panic hit like a pulse. Delegates shouted into comms, demanding clarification, weapons status, authorizations. The Spire's defense grid lit up, only to be overridden. A simple message blinked on every military interface. Access denied. System locked. Sigil 9. Human AI was in their backbone. Counselor Veshtal of the Kralon hissed. This is war! No, said Counselor Elith, blinking her translucent eyes. This is restraint. If they wanted war, we'd be gone already. Velorian finally collapsed into his seat, claws tightening around the armrest. She was never here to negotiate, he muttered. She came to deliver a warning. And we didn't listen. Aboard the TSV Icarus Vale, President Rourke watched the chaos unfold on a dozen silent screens. No smugness. No celebration. Just quiet confirmation. Council has entered critical disarray, her aide reported. Multiple systems requesting back-channel diplomacy. Some want trade preservation. Others protection. Good, Rourke said. Keep the lines open. But only answer those who use our actual name. No more Terrans or Earthborns. If they can't speak it straight, they don't get access. Understood. She turned to Admiral Kurik, who stood with arms folded behind his back. No movement from them yet, he said. Spire grid is locked, Council ships on standby. We have full orbital superiority. Hold position, Rourke said. They'll either talk, stall, or panic. Doesn't matter. The message was for the galaxy. Not just the room. The aide hesitated. Do you think they'll retaliate? Rourke shook her head. They'll do what they've always done, talk. Spin. Issue another 1,000 words to avoid 1 ounce of accountability. She stared out at the spire. And we'll do what we always do, prepare for when the talking stops. Across the stars, the message spread. Dozens of worlds received the same simple broadcast from Earth. The Terran Union has revoked all diplomatic obligations to the Galactic Council. We remain open to direct dialogue with sovereign worlds. Honor is returned when honesty is offered. Some planets rejoiced. Smaller colonies long bullied by the Council's shadowed rules saw hope in Earth's defiance. Others panicked. Trade was interrupted. Medbots failed. Entire economies froze as the scaffolding Earth helped build collapsed with a whisper. Earth didn't attack. It simply disconnected. And that terrified them more. Back inside the council chamber, the mood had changed. The panic was now quieter. More dangerous. Velorian stood, eyes sunken. They've humiliated us. They've exposed us, corrected Counselor Elith. You don't bring peace with chains. They simply refuse to wear them. I will not let them dictate galactic order. You already did, someone snapped. When you made them your enemy. Silence. Then came the message from Earth. Not Rourke. Not a diplomat. Just text. Plain. Final. We're not angry. We're focused. Don't make the mistake of thinking that's safer. The chamber dimmed. And in that moment, the galaxy realized Earth wasn't bluffing. Earth wasn't begging. Earth was watching. The emergency summit had no agenda. It had panic. The Council's grand chamber, once a symbol of calm dominance, now buzzed with arguments layered over shouts layered over silence. Some species bellowed in their native tongues. Others hissed, clicked, or spat slurs that hadn't been used since pre-space feudalism. All of them stared at the same thing, Earth's ships, stationary, silent, and completely unchallenged. "They haven't moved," said Counselor Veshtel, mandibles rattling. "They're just watching." "They don't need to move," answered Counselor Rolath. "We handed them the high ground and prayed they wouldn't build a fortress." Velorian paced. The Chancellor looked 10 years older, his once lustrous neck frills wilted. "This is salvageable. We can issue amends, frame the Sci-Fi as rogue intelligence." "You embedded it in a gift, Velorian," spat Elith. "You think a statement undoes betrayal?" He wheeled on her. "And what would you have done? Earth is a threat. We tried to understand them." "No, you tried to disarm them." Screens lit up again. Emergency feeds. More red. New trade failure, Arcturus loop. Civilian panic on Vexery outpost. Earth origin systems offline, 1,207 nodes. The fallout wasn't just diplomatic anymore. It was structural. Earth's invisible fingers had woven themselves through nearly every corner of the Council's infrastructure: communications, logistics, defense, energy routing. Not control. Integration. And now those fingers were gone. "Why didn't we see this coming?" muttered Veshtel. "We did," Elith whispered. "We just refused to believe it." Meanwhile, aboard the TSV Icarus Vale, Admiral Kurik reviewed orbital scans. Dozens of Council defense platforms remained in standby mode, active, but paralyzed. Human interference? No. Just deterrence. "Their turrets are locked, but nothing's powered past diagnostics," his officer confirmed. "They're waiting for authorization, and probably afraid to give it." "Let them wait," Kurik said. President Rourke entered without announcement. The room stood instinctively. She waved them down. "Status?" she asked. "They're imploding," Kurik said. "Internal squabbling. Half their delegates are turning on Velorian. Rumors of vote withdrawal. No consensus. Any signs of escalation?" "One," the comms officer replied. "Javari warship group out of Tau vessel system just veered off a safe corridor. Looks like they're making a move toward Relay Kappa, one of ours." "Warn them?" Rourke shook her head. "No threats. No contact. They could strike. They could die trying." Inside Council operations, the Dravari command feed screamed across encrypted channels. "Engines steady. We move past Relay Kappa, grab the outpost. Let's remind Earth what boundaries look like." The fleet surged forward. At Relay Kappa, Earth's automated defense buoy pinged once. No weapons, no interference. Then a ripple pulsed across the Dravari systems. Silence. Lights flickered. Engines stuttered. And then, nothing. Not an explosion. Not a counterstrike. The fleet simply disappeared. No signal. No debris. The Council registered it only as a drop in telemetry. Velorian stared at the report, hands trembling. "They erased a war fleet," he whispered. "No message. No warning." Elith exhaled. "Not erased. Silenced." Counselor Rolath leaned forward. "How long before the others start choosing sides?" "Choosing?" Elith said. "They already have. They're just waiting to see who lives longer." At the Terran Union's orbital command, Rourke reviewed independent signals. Requests from neutral colonies. Direct appeals from border species. Even a few ancient holdouts, long isolated, were reaching out. Not begging. Not aligning. Just curious. The way a flame draws eyes in a frozen room. "They're not afraid," her aide observed. "They're interested. Because we did the one thing the Council never could," Rourke replied. "We left without trying to take anything with us." The aide scrolled. "Should we respond?" Rourke nodded. To those who address us as equals. The rest can sit in the dark and ask themselves why their lights went out. In a hidden chamber deep beneath the spire, Velorian met with his inner circle. What remained of it? Only 5 attended. The rest were either in hiding or fleeing systems with Earth-built portals. The Terran president humiliated the council, said General Vrex of the Molten Guard. We must strike. Reassert dominance. Strike what? Elith asked sharply. Their fleets are already here. Their AI is inside our comms. We'd be firing missiles at shadows. We can sanction them. Velorian muttered. Turn the other species against them. They've already left. Elith snapped. There's no mechanism to sanction. Earth isn't under you anymore. He clenched his fists. She planned this, he said. Years of setup. Quiet infiltration. A strategy so slow we didn't notice until the hammer landed. R'Aleth sighed. She didn't plan this to win a war, Velorian. She planned it to prevent one. And we gave her all the justification she needed. 3 systems over, in the neutral orbit of Zyrakel, a lone message began to circulate among diplomats. Earth does not seek domination. We seek honesty. Speak plainly. Treat fairly. Respect autonomy. Or stay silent forever. No threats. No ambassadors. No terms. Just terms Earth itself lived by now. Galactic broadcasts lit up with speculation. Independent systems held emergency meetings. Some condemned Earth. Others listened. And a few followed. Not out of fear. But because someone had finally done what the Council never dared. Walked away and meant it. The galaxy braced for Earth's retaliation. But nothing came. No demands. No broadcasts. No fleets advancing. Just silence. And that silence was loud. Council systems that once depended on Earth's integration began to fail, not catastrophically, but constantly. Timetables grew unreliable. Agricultural satellites failed to sync. Medical networks delayed by hours became deadly in minutes. It was death by absence. Not sabotage. Abandonment. A slow, spiraling lesson in who had actually been holding up the roof. On the 5th day after the summit walkout, the Council's Emergency Tech Council convened. Half the delegates didn't show. Velorian did. He looked different, smaller, not in stature but relevance. We must reboot all system protocols independent of Terran integration, he said without waiting for the floor. Wipe their code, restore Council authority across all nodes. You mean crash everything we're standing on and hope we survive the fall, replied Elith. Our sovereignty demands it. Our survival does not. The chamber was quiet. Systems across 4 quadrants were dark. Entire food shipments drifted in space because no one could read Earth's routing AI anymore. No one knew how it worked. Earth hadn't concealed it. The Council had never bothered to learn. Even if we purged the Terran tech, Elith continued, we'd still be left with a universe that no longer trusts us. Velorian growled. Then we remind them who leads. You mean threaten? If that's what it takes. Then you're the reason this happened. Meanwhile, Earth didn't speak. It simply responded, to those who reached out respectfully. 1,000 diplomatic messages flooded the Terran relay gates. Most were ignored. But some were answered. One by one, Earth began forming bilateral ties, small colonies, unaligned trade hubs, research worlds that had never trusted the Council. The first to switch sides publicly was Nizkar Prime, a mid-sized oxygen world rich in cobalt. Its planetary governor made a direct broadcast. We no longer recognize the Galactic Council as a diplomatic authority. Effective immediately, Nizkar aligns with Earth under mutual sovereignty. 2 more systems followed within a day. By the end of the week, 9 worlds had signed what Earth called the Concord Directive. No empires, no overlords, just systems pledging mutual respect and absolute defense if attacked. It wasn't a treaty. It was an offer. We won't lead you. But we will never let anyone else own you again. Inside the Icarus Vale's strategy bay, Rourke reviewed the latest migration charts. Red lines marked collapsed corridors. Blue ones showed rerouted supply lanes, faster, cleaner, and under Earth's protection. Admiral Kurik stood beside her. The numbers are staggering. We've replaced 40% of the Council's distribution network without a shot fired. They built a machine, she said, and didn't bother reading the manual. We read every page. Then rewrote it. Her aide stepped forward. Velorians issued a new open call to re-establish talks. No terms stated. No apology either, I assume? Not a word. Then he's still performing, not listening. Kurik watched the star map shift as new systems came online. You think he'll escalate? He already tried. With words. With whispers. But now, he'll try something loud. Desperate men always do. He did. 4 days later, an unauthorized diplomatic vessel arrived at Earth's orbital zone, flagged under a Council identity code. It sent a message requesting neutral ground. Rourke didn't reply. She watched it sit there. For hours. Then, without warning, the ship turned and left. They never got an answer. Instead, Earth's AI sigil updated its global communication protocols. All new requests would be filtered by truth-checking subroutines. Lies were auto-rejected. Condescension was flagged. Only honest messages got through. Velorian, cornered, made one final play. He called for a Unity Reaffirmation Assembly, a Council-led media broadcast meant to show strength and control. He gathered remaining member worlds, delivered a speech filled with scripted assurance, and demanded all systems under Council jurisdiction reaffirm their allegiance. Half the feed never transmitted. Terran AI had quietly intercepted the spectrum. No threats. No blocks. Just nullified the signal. The Council's grand broadcast went out to static. On the same channel, one simple message appeared in its place. Peace is built on truth. You lost the peace. You buried the truth. In a neutral orbit above Kelvra, a delegation of previously unaffiliated species met Earth's envoy. It wasn't Rourke. It wasn't even military. It was a biologist. A civilian. Unarmed. She greeted them with no guards, no ceremony. Just data, proposals for sustainable trade, shared terraforming protocols, and unrestricted knowledge exchange. We're not here to dominate, she said. We're here to survive better. Together. That meeting became the most downloaded broadcast in 2 systems. Because it wasn't fear they saw in Earth. It was capability. And a refusal to misuse it. Back on Unity Spire, a Council technician whispered into Velorian's ear. The Calveth Confederacy has signed the Concord. His jaw locked. And the Ixal worlds just revoked their Council membership. Another cut. Deeper this time. How many? He asked. 17 confirmed. 5 more pending. The lights flickered above. Even the power grid was uncertain now. Velorian sank into his chair. No one yelled. No one stood. They all understood. The Council wasn't falling apart. It was being left behind. The final meeting didn't take place on Unity Spire. Earth declined. Instead, it happened on Orbital Diplomatic Zone Alpha, a Terran-built neutral platform spinning above the quiet rim world of Aster 4. No flags. No statues. No anthems. Just clean halls, open airlocks, and the kind of silence you only find in places where fear no longer lives. President Helena Rourke entered the chamber without guards, weapons, or speechwriters. A few dozen representatives were already present, some from former Council states, some from systems that had never taken sides. Velorian wasn't among them. She walked past seats without acknowledging who filled them. Stood at the center of the room. No stage. No podium. Let's get something clear, she said. Everyone looked up. This is not a council. This is not an empire. There are no binding oaths, no pledges, no forced alliances. Earth didn't call this to rebuild what we broke away from. We're here to explain what replaces it. She tapped a small control orb. The lights dimmed. A star map appeared, annotated with shifting lines, some fading, some newly drawn. The galaxy you knew was held together by assumption. Assumption that the Council was the natural center. That smaller systems needed protection, and Earth needed supervision. She paused. All of that is over. No protests came. Only attention. Rourke paced once, slow and deliberate. We do not seek control. We don't need territory. We don't want tribute. What we demand is respect. The room stayed still. Even the oxygen vents seemed to quiet. You will not infiltrate us. You will not pacify us with language meant to sound like compromise. You will not offer gifts designed to enslave. You will speak plainly. Or not at all. A delegate from the Runkar Confederacy leaned forward. And if we refuse either? Rourke didn't blink. Then you're free to live in irrelevance. We don't attack those who ignore us. But don't mistake silence for weakness. The delegate nodded slowly. No more questions. Rourke continued. You want trade? Offer fair terms. You want tech? Be transparent. You want peace? Show us you're worth negotiating with. There are no special channels. No grandfather clauses. Every system is a clean slate. A diplomat from the Valari Compact spoke next. And the Council? What role does it play now? The Council can exist. In its own time. On its own terms. But Earth no longer sees it as an authority. We will deal with worlds, not seats at a broken table. Another tap. The star map zoomed. Dozens of systems highlighted in pale blue, independent, but now linked through Earth's Concord Protocol. Each of these worlds came to us as equals. We offer them open corridors, shared science, unrestricted education, and mutual defense. No chains. No secrecy. If you want an ask. If not, step aside. Silence held. Then a voice from the back, a species unknown to most, a reclusive cluster world envoy with bright silver eyes, spoke quietly. Why not conquer us? You clearly can. You've already won without war. Rourke looked him dead in the eyes. Because peace enforced without consent isn't peace. It's just efficient tyranny. And we didn't claw out of Earth's own ruin to become the thing we once feared. She paused again, then added, but don't misread our restraint. We don't hesitate anymore. If you try what the Council tried, there won't be a negotiation. There won't be a warning. Just the end of the conversation. No one laughed. It wasn't a joke. A few chairs shifted. Not out of discomfort. But clarity. An O for diplomat stood. President Rourke. We are prepared to sign Concord terms. With immediate effect. She nodded. Then you'll be treated accordingly. One by one, others stood. Not all. But enough. The galaxy wasn't shifting through force. It was rotating around something new, certainty. Back on Unity's spire, Velorian stood in a dark chamber. No attendants. No advisors. Just a silent screen replaying the Orbital Zone Alpha summit. He watched Rourke speak without a podium. Heard every word he used to dismiss Earth mirrored back with precision and power. She didn't need anger. She had results. He slumped into his chair. You thought you were taming wolves? He whispered to no one. Turns out, they were just letting you pet them. His message queue blinked. A dozen resignations. 4 systems had declared neutrality. Another had publicly aligned with Earth. He deleted them all without reading. He knew what they said. 2 weeks later, a young alien, barely out of political school, watched the starfeed with wide eyes as Earth's ships delivered clean water infrastructure to a border world the Council had neglected for decades. Beside him, his mentor, a veteran of 30 years in diplomacy, watched with a hollow kind of awe. The youth turned. What happens now? The old one stared at the Earth crest emblazoned on the side of the descending cruiser. No, he said quietly. We learn to speak honestly, or we learn to scream.